So this is a continuation on from the last video. To continue talking about the image, I'd like to sort of mention why I chose the angle I did as well. And because the image I took was from a high angle, it is representative of her innocence and inferiority. And because she is looking up, it is clear that she is becoming aware of this and cannot escape, and it's looking directly at the audience. Just like in the trailer, the way that the main character, Katie, looks directly at the audience during the calling the police scene. It can allow the audience to feel closer to her and feel more part of this scenario that's happening, and this sort of makes an emotional link with the audience. In my blog post called "Are We Afraid of the Dark? Are we afraid of the idea or the sight?" I established that the sight can be more terrifying when it's unfamiliar to us, but the image in a magazine is something someone could relate to because of the insecurities it could resemble and the link to candles. So obviously candles used for like relaxation and tranquility, but this obviously creates a negative portrayal of that. And so it may be seen as a disturbingly familiar thing to us, which links again to Blumler and Katz's uses and gratifications theory of personal identity. The written and chromatic text were chosen because they needed to fit the Empire image. The image of a simple and sleek look, and this also needed to reflect my film. So obviously the fonts I chose were quite basic, and they weren't anything special, but the same as can be said for any of the Empire magazines, that except from obviously the film title, but generally the actual even here, so even the film title is actually quite basic, because that's the image that Empire has. It's sleek, it's simple, it's elegant, and because of the way that Empire reflects itself in that way, it's a very well established magazine, and it doesn't need to have all these interesting fonts because of they don't want to represent themselves as something like that. But obviously the fonts that I chose were to reflect my magazine's brand, were to reflect the magazine's brand, whereas the chromatic text was chosen to reflect my film. So greys, blues, reds, whites, they all have connotations of anguish, sadness, anger, and innocence, respectively. And by creating a Empire horror cover, I actually challenged the media format for this brand because they don't typically do horror covers. And so by doing this, I changed the style because I felt that it was not typical for the Empire magazine, so why not change the style of it? And so that's why I did the shading, because they don't tend to do this. They tend to do the cutout theme, but I felt that it worked. Yet I conformed to the conventions of a magazine by using a similar layout and a style that the Empire magazine and generally most magazines do use. And the reasoning behind the chromatic and written text was obviously very similar to what a typical magazine would actually choose as well. And that's the end of this video.